The crate arrived on a flatbed truck, looking more like something destined for a tech lab in Silicon Valley than our dusty farm lane. Inside was the Agribot 5000, a four-wheeled solar-paneled machine that was supposed to be our new farmhand. It was low to the ground, about the size of a large lawnmower, and painted a stark industrial white. Unboxing it wasn't a simple affair. We had to use the tractor forks to lift it off the pallet. My first thought was that it looked surprisingly fragile, with its delicate camera arms and sensors sticking out. The instructions were on a tablet, not a paper manual. The first sign of how different this would be. We spent the better part of the afternoon just getting it calibrated, walking it around the barnyard to map the boundaries. Once it was charged and programmed with the layout of our north vegetable field, we gave it a first task: weeding. I watched with a healthy dose of skepticism as it rolled silently between the rows of young lettuce. Its little mechanical arms, equipped with tiny hose and laser emitters, went to work. It moved slowly, methodically, identifying weeds with its camera and zapping them or plucking them out. It was unnervingly quiet. No diesel engine roar, just the faint whir of electric motors. Next, we tasked it with an irrigation audit. The Agribot rolled along our drip lines, using a moisture sensor to check the soil every few feet. A map on the tablet started populating with data, showing us exactly which sections were too wet and which were too dry. It found 2 clogged emitters I would have missed for days. Then came the pest scan. The bot patrolled the potato patch, its high-resolution cameras scanning leaves for signs of potato beetles. When it found a cluster of eggs, it sent an alert to my phone with a picture and GPS coordinates. I felt a grudging respect building. It was doing the tedious, detail-oriented work that often gets pushed aside during a busy season. My immediate reaction was one of pure astonishment. The precision was something no human could ever match. Weeding a full acre by hand takes my crew and me the better part of 2 days. The robot was on track to do it in 1, and it would work through the night if we let it. The skepticism was still there, nagging at me. What happens when it breaks? What does a repair bill look like? But watching it patrol the fields, I couldn't deny the feeling of relief. It was like having another set of eyes and hands, ones that never got tired, never got distracted, and saw things I couldn't. It was the start of a profound shift in how I viewed my own farm. The biggest one for us has been labor. Finding good, reliable help is getting harder every year. Then there's the rising cost of inputs: fuel, fertilizer, herbicides. Much of it is wasted with broadcast spraying. This robot promised a more surgical approach: spot spraying, mechanical removal, targeting only the specific weed or pest. The Agribot's ability to conduct a constant soil moisture survey gives us a real-time map of our water needs. These challenges aren't just business problems, they're sustainability problems. This technology felt like a potential third way, bridging the gap between economic viability and ecological responsibility. My morning routine looks a lot different now. It used to start with a walk through the fields. Now it starts with a cup of coffee and a tablet. I log into the Agribot's dashboard. The first thing I see is an overview of the farm, a satellite map overlaid with data from the robot's overnight patrol. It shows me crop health. It shows me soil moisture levels. It shows me any alerts that were flagged. A red dot in field 3 might mean a pest infestation. A yellow patch in the corn might indicate a nitrogen deficiency. My morning walk is still essential, but now it's guided by data. I'm not just looking, I'm verifying what the robot has already told me. From the main dashboard, I plan the day's missions. The software is surprisingly user-friendly. I can drag and drop tasks for the robot. This morning, I assigned it to a weeding mission in the squash patch until 10 a.m., then a moisture check on the newly planted tomatoes, then an afternoon pest scan on the potatoes. I can set the priority of each task. I can adjust parameters, how aggressive the weeding should be, the threshold for a moisture alert. It feels less like farming and more like being an air traffic controller. Real example, the dashboard showed a notification for an unidentified plant in row 7 of our kale. The robot's camera couldn't match it. I tapped the notification and pulled up a high-resolution photo. It was lamb's quarters, a common weed, but growing much faster than the others. I remotely tagged it high priority. Then I walked out to row 7 myself. The robot was right. I had my farmhand Sarah do a quick manual hoeing there. The robot kept working the lighter infestations elsewhere. This routine changed my role. Less physical drudgery, more analysis and strategy. I'm looking at trends over time. Is water use in the West Field consistently higher? Is there a pattern to where pests appear first? The dashboard gives me charts and graphs. It helps me decide on crop rotation, soil amendments, and irrigation infrastructure. Of course, it hasn't all been smooth sailing. I got an alert on my phone saying the robot was stuck in a soft, muddy patch created by a leaky irrigation fitting I hadn't noticed. Its sensors were supposed to detect wheel slippage, but the mud was just slick enough to fool it. The fix was simple, if messy. A good shove onto drier ground, and a manual reroute around the area until it dried out. One afternoon, the weeding arm stopped working. It would identify a weed, lower its little laser, and then nothing. After a video call with support, we found a piece of dirt lodged in front of the laser's focusing lens. The fix was embarrassingly simple: a can of compressed air. The support tech told me to add check and clean all lenses to my daily maintenance checklist. After a system update, the robot started misidentifying some of our young carrot sprouts as weeds and plucking them out. I hit emergency stop. I had to retrain the image recognition model, show it pictures and label crop, label weed. I spent an hour uploading close-ups of carrot seedlings. Frustrating, but a powerful reminder. The robot is only as smart as the information we give it. This technology is not a set-it-and-forget-it solution. It requires constant human oversight, troubleshooting, and a willingness to get your hands dirty. You can't just turn it on and walk away for a month. You have to be engaged, watch for anomalies, be ready to intervene. It's a partnership. The robot does the repetitive work, but the farmer needs to be the problem solver. It's a new set of skills, but it's still fundamentally about knowing your field and your crops. It's a shift from laborer to data-driven farm manager. It's easy to think that a robot like this takes the farmer out of the equation, but nothing could be further from the truth. The robot is a tool. It doesn't make decisions. It executes commands. It collects data. My job has shifted from doing the work to directing the work. I am the one who interprets the data the robot provides. When it flags a patch of leaves with yellow spots, the robot doesn't know if it's nitrogen deficiency, a fungal disease, or water stress. It just sees yellow. I have to take that information, walk out to the field, look at the plants, feel the soil, and use my years of experience to decide on a course of action. My strategic role has become even more important. The robot can weed a field, but I decide which field to weed first based on crop growth stage and weed pressure. The robot can tell me the soil is dry. I decide when and how much to irrigate, balancing crop needs, long-term water goals, and the weather forecast. After a heavy rain, I know low-lying areas will be too wet. I preemptively edit its path to keep it on higher ground. Consider a case study from our zucchini patch. The robot detected a rapid increase in squash bug nymphs along the eastern edge. The default protocol would be to spot spray with an organic insecticide, but the infestation was concentrated in just 3 rows near a wooded area, and I knew tachinid flies were active. Instead of spraying, I programmed the robot to only patrol those rows and waited 48 hours for natural predators. It was a risk, but a calculated one. The robot gave me the precision to take that risk. This human oversight is the most critical component. Technology can give you information, but it can't give you wisdom. Wisdom comes from understanding the complex interplay of soil, weather, plants, and insects. The robot enhances my senses, extending my reach and vision across the entire farm at once. It lets me apply my knowledge more effectively at scale. I'm not being replaced by a machine. I'm being augmented by one. I am still the farmer and my hand is still on the tiller, even if that tiller is now a touchscreen. It's a dynamic process of command and feedback. At the end of the day, farming is a business. Feelings and philosophies are important, but you have to be able to pay the bills. After our first full season with the Agribot, I sat down to look at the hard numbers. The results were, to be blunt, astounding. Let's start with yield. In our high-density lettuce beds, where weed competition is a major limiting factor, we saw a yield increase of 18%. The robot's constant, tireless weeding meant the lettuce never had to compete for sunlight, water, or nutrients. That 18% isn't just a number. It's thousands of extra heads of lettuce we were able to sell at the market. The savings on inputs were even more dramatic. Our records show a 75% reduction in herbicide use across the farm. We used to do a broadcast spray on our potato fields twice a season. This year, we did none. The robot's mechanical and laser weeding handled it all. This saved us over $2,000 in herbicide costs alone, not to mention the fuel and labor hours for the tractor. By using the robot's moisture data to fine-tune our drip irrigation, we cut our water consumption in the vegetable fields by 25%. In a dry year, that's the difference between a healthy crop and a stressed one. Labor is the big one. The robot performed tasks that would have taken 450 human labor hours, like hiring a full-time seasonal worker for 3 months. It didn't mean I fired anyone. It meant the team could focus on higher-value work, trellising tomatoes, improving compost, building cold frames. The robot isn't just a novelty. It's a powerful tool for improving efficiency and profitability. 18% yield bump, 75% reduction in chemical inputs, 25% savings on water. They are transformative. Let's talk about the elephant in the field, the cost. The initial capital expenditure for our Agribot 5000, base unit, weeding, spraying attachment, charging station, was $75,000. We secured a low-interest loan through a USDA Climate Smart program, which made it feasible. Without that, it would have been a much harder decision. Based on first-year savings, labor, $11,250, herbicides, $2,000, yield bump, around $4,500. Total, about $17,750. At that rate, the simple payback period is just over 4 years. Reasonable for a major piece of farm equipment. But purchase price is only part of the story. You have to consider the total cost of ownership. Annual software subscription of $1,500 for updates and support. Electricity to charge the unit, partly offset by the robot's solar. We put aside about $2,000 a year for maintenance and repairs. Things will break. Mechanical arms wear out. Batteries degrade. Sensors need replacing. Is it worth it? For us, a cautious yes. The financial math works out, especially when you factor in reliability and precision. Environmentally, the biggest impact has been reduced chemical runoff. 75% less herbicide means fewer chemicals in our soil and watershed. The robot's light footprint reduces soil compaction, improving water infiltration and root health over time. But it isn't a perfect story. The robot runs on grid electricity at night. Manufacturing has a footprint, and e-waste is a real concern. We need clear end-of-life plans from manufacturers, buybacks and recycling programs. We can't trade chemical runoff for e-waste. The green ledger has to be balanced honestly. Progress is expensive, right now priced for early adopters. A writer from a farm journal asked how I really felt. Honestly, when it first arrived, I hated it. It felt like a surrender. The learning curve was steep. Not learning to drive it, learning to trust it. The first week I followed it like a nervous parent. But then I started seeing the results. The fields were cleaner. The data was genuinely useful. The machine was working well. Oh, the neighbors had a field day. Star Wars lawnmower. There's skepticism, especially among older farmers. But younger farmers have been stopping by with real questions. They see the labor shortages and input costs. The tech doesn't scare them. Adoption will be slow, one farm at a time, driven by need and a willingness to try something new. Looking back on this first season, the takeaway is clear. Robotic assistants are not science fiction anymore. They are practical, powerful tools. They save labor. They reduce chemical use. They reduce water use. They provide data that allows us to be better, more precise farmers. It's not a magic bullet. It requires new skills in data management and troubleshooting. The human element remains more important than ever. I predict these machines will become smaller, smarter, cheaper. We might see fleets of small, specialized robots working together. Robots for weeding, robots for scouting, robots for harvesting. More integration is coming. Robot data feeding directly into irrigation systems and fertilizer applicators. The smart farm becomes standard. My advice? Start small. Don't automate your whole farm overnight. Pick one major pain point, maybe weeding a specific crop or scouting for a particular pest. Do your research. Run the numbers for your operation. Talk to farmers who already made the investment. Be prepared for the learning curve. Prepare for the inevitable glitches, but don't be afraid of the change. This isn't abandoning tradition. It's using new tools to preserve our ability to farm for generations to come. One farmer's story from one field. The transition will be different for everyone, shaped by our crops, our climates, our communities. I'm curious to hear from you. Are you using this technology? What has your experience been? Are you skeptical? What are your biggest concerns? Let's continue the conversation. The future of our farms depends on the choices we make today. We need to make them together, with our eyes wide open.